that was our office. It was this tiny little space of all of us in there, and it was fun to kind of go through that growth cycle there at AFR. But yeah, that at that time I still remember it. It was the Steinbergs in Silver Springs, Maryland. It was my first loan. I sold 7.25 on a conventional loan. And didn't know what I was doing, and we sold it, did it, and I remember doing that at that time. That's where the conventional rates were at that time.
Yep. Welcome to Get Real 411, the podcast where real experts give real advice on all things real estate. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Brad.
Join us as we explore real estate successes and pitfalls through the eyes of our esteemed guests.
Now let's get real.
Well, we're excited today to be joined by Rob Pieklo, COO of AFR and a longtime industry leader. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Excited for this.
We're really excited to talk to you. And, we'll get right into it. We've been AFR brokers through AmeriFund for some time and have kind of gone along the journey with them. But what we'd really like to do today is learn a lot more about your personal journey in the industry, as you've been in it a bit, just like Brad and myself. So let's start from the beginning, my friend. How did you get into the mortgage industry? Did you grow up and say, I want to be in the mortgage industry when I grow up? Because I know that I didn't, and I know that Brad didn't either.
I did not. I'm like everybody else. I was doing something else, and I had a friend that was in the mortgage business. One of my best friends, Sean Hammond, which a lot of the people in the network know, and it's like a storybook. He like drove up in like a Porsche Boxster, and was like, "Hey, you got to get in the mortgage business. Jump in!" And I like jumped in the back of the car. We rolled, and that was it. That's how we started. He literally got me into the business. I'm so thankful for it. I was 22 years old, an idiot, and was excited about the opportunity that was ahead in the mortgage space. And ironically enough, like the journey started at AFR. The journey started here. And so it's a full circle moment for me to have an opportunity to come back. And, I started as a loan officer at AFR a million years ago. And it's one of those things where I learned everything about the business and everything that I had in the knowledge base that I've been able to accumulate by doing lots of things wrong over a long period of time. I did at AFR. We learned it there, started as a retail originator, grew a team of retail originators. So I started at the ground level and really focused on originations. Had a small team called Internet Marketing Group at that time from AFR, back when it wasn't cool to do internet marketing, 2003 through 2007. And we grew that group to eventually take over all of retail originations for AFR at that time. And then a crisis happened. And I, at the time, it was interesting. We had an opportunity to buy into the company. So our family, we scraped and clawed every penny we could, and we were able to purchase into AFR during the crisis as one of their partners wanted to get out because it was so crazy, and bought into the company in 2007, 2008. And kind of the rest is history here. We ended up having an incredible opportunity there, growing the company. Got to run capital markets for the company, got to run strategy for the company, got to run a consumer direct division for the company while doing that, and all while doing some road shows and kind of meeting the kind of capital markets world and Wall Street world for a while, and got to do that, and then ended up selling back to the shareholders in 2018 and going to work for a large distressed public company called Ditech. I'm sure you guys have heard of Ditech.
Oh, yes.
Ran originations for them. So I got to oversee their correspondent, their wholesale, and their retail divisions there. And it was supposed to be like a 6-month stint to kind of clean them up for sale. It took 14 months, but we got them in a really good place. I think we were doing about 1.5 billion originations a month at the time when we sold to New Res. And then I started a brokerage and started a small little brokerage partner with Sean Hammond, and did that for a few years, enjoyed it, got back to the front lines, realized how hard it is to get a loan. I thought it was gonna be easy. I just walk in, get a bunch of loans, and make a bunch of money, it'd be easy. Did that on the front lines, and then bolted on to U Mortgage, so a non-delegated and broker as well, and kind of helped kind of build that platform a little bit, and got a lot of loan officers on board there, and kind of held a position of VP of Revenue, handled all the investor relations there, and then had an opportunity to consult for a fund that was interested in purchasing an originator, and they wanted to find a target. So I got to do a little consulting while I was doing my normal day job. and they said they really want to get into the vertical of originations and buy a mortgage company because they hadn't been in the space. And I said, hey, I know some people. So I went back to my friends at AFR and said, hey, there might be an opportunity for someone to purchase you guys. And we went ahead and kind of took a while, but they ended up agreeing to terms. And then towards the end, they asked me to come on. And since the consulting work was heavy in the space and focused in on wholesale, they said they'd love for me to come back and help run the company post purchase. So there it is. February, we purchased AFR and have been making a lot of change and some noise in the markets since. Long-winded story, but
Yeah,
that's me.
it's a great story though. Look, so you started in the business in 2003 at
Correct.
AFR. How old was AFR at that time?
So there, I was like employee 15 at AFR. So
Okay.
it had been open for like I'd say 5 or 6 years or so, but
Okay.
they were just brokering at the time. This is before they had like warehouse lines and got into the wholesale space. They were just a broker shop that focused on origination.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Because if I remember correctly, 2003, 2002 was a pretty robust year. And just to draw a parallel, because I remember refinancing my own home in 2002. I did a 5-1 arm at 5.5%.
Yep.
So just to give you kind of an idea of comparison for rates, and we're not doing much in the way of interim arms today, but weren't dissimilar. But I remember 2003 was a down year, so that's when you started. That is really an interesting path you took. Um, you know, Ditech though. At what point did Ditech become cash call?
No, so that was post. So it was that switched ownership. So Ditech, it was its I guess its entity itself was from Walter Investment, and then the cash call was sold off prior and went to a different company in California.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. So
Yeah,
that was a split. Got it. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't real certain on that, but I knew you knew the
It was a
insides.
weird, it's the mortgage business, so it's a weird like incestuous thing that we have going here in the mortgage space. But yeah, there's pieces all over the place. But what's funny at AFR when I started, obviously the same thing is like there was 14 of us, and the the bathroom door, you would open it and hit the back of the chair of the CFO. That was our office. It was this tiny little space of all of us in there, and it was fun to kind of go through that growth cycle there at AFR. But yeah, that at that time, I still remember it. It was the Steinbergs in Silver Springs, Maryland. It was my first loan. I sold 7.25 on a conventional
Wow.
loan, and didn't know what I was doing. And we sold it, did it, and I remember doing that at that time. That's where the conventional rates were at that time.
Yep, there you go. See, we always remember. I remember my first one. I'm not going to get into that today, but it was very unique.
Yeah.
So where was AFR located physically back in 2003, and where are you now?
Yeah, they're in northern New Jersey, and their headquarters is still in Parsippany, New Jersey. There's a couple mortgage companies that are out of there. I am located in Tampa, beautiful Tampa.
Okay,
Can't see the view; I'm blurred, but there's a nice view of the bay behind me here. So it's but our headquarters is still located in Parsippany. I just opened up this office. That's why I'm the only one in here right now. But we have some people coming down and are going to be spending time here in our new office.
great, nice, nice. Yeah, definitely a better venue for you,
Well, I would
for
say
sure.
maybe not in July, but for the next 2 months, Jersey has they win, but from
Yeah.
September through May or so, I'll take Florida all
Yeah,
all day.
10 takes two every day.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about what your role is. You came into AFR in February with the idea of making some major changes, right? So tell us a little bit about what you came into and what you're hoping to do and what you've already accomplished.
Yeah. So the first thing is that AFR is an incredible company, right? So I talk about it all the time. When we were going through the crisis, it's funny being an originator, and the CEO has always taken an incredible stance on the compliance side, always erring on the side of compliance and very risk adverse. So when we got there, I think it was like when everybody was selling teaser rates and other stuff. Our CEO actually worked out a deal where he bought out all reps and warrants for like 3/8 in price on any loan that we originated with some of those, any of the funky products. And we were like, how could you do that? It's the dumbest thing. We're not going to be able to compete. Not doing it now. 2009, 2010, 2011, when everybody was getting hit with all this stuff, we were perfect. We didn't do a lot of those loans anyway, but anybody that we worked out a deal with, we had bought out all rep and warrant for future piece. So he had the foresight to kind of put that in there. He's always been that way, and the company's always been that way. So when we're purchasing AFR, like they have a track record where it might be difficult to work with. We've been known, we can get into that in a little bit, but they always erred on the side of caution. So the regulators, the investors, the people that are purchasing the loans, people that are purchasing the servicing, all that stuff, they love AFR, right? Because they have like all the paperwork's always in order. They always had a ton of documentation. They always had things done right, and they always took the side of erred on the side of caution. So on that side of the house, everyone loved it. And then from the investment perspective, looking to purchase a company, boy, it's really nice to buy a company with all the tickets that had taken that track, that track for it, and always gone and erred on the side of caution when doing originations. Because even during the heyday in 21, they didn't cut any corners. So you have a lot of companies that dealt with the ramifications of repurchase and stuff because they got as much in as they possibly could. AFR kind of, they did volume, but they did it right and didn't do anything in terms of trying to get all that volume in. So they did a really good job there. So it was a really good target for the fund to purchase, and they tapped me to come in and make change, to come in and run the organization. I report to an executive committee that's comprised of the old CEO or the CEO now, but and an executive committee from the proprietary capital folks that run that fund. And we really we had a shared vision. So it's really nice when the funds and the capital that are coming in believe in what you want to do for the future of the company and the growth of the company, and we all are aligned of where we want to go, where we want to get our business from, and what kind of business we want to get. So we're very aligned in that. So they tapped me to come in, and knowing the experience that I've had in all of the channels, and specifically recently in the broker channel, and seeing what an incredible opportunity we have, because I I truly love the origination aspect of the broker channel, like the optionality, always competing for loans, like I love that business. And for us, we had to make some significant changes, so we weren't known as just a niche player. Aren't going to be known as just a niche player, because we're known right now for just OTC and Reno. And we're starting to slowly make the change and migrate into more standard business and kind of get into conventional loans, regular government loans, not just the bottom of the barrel stuff that people that are used to sending our way.
So it's
So
interesting because you came from a perspective of being in on the ground floor of the original AFR, and you built, and building is so fun. It's so fun to build. Now you've been put in the position of coming in, not even coming back
Yeah.
to something that you were in on the foundation of, assessing its current state and figuring out in many ways how to rebuild. Talk to us a little bit about how you walked back into that environment and where you started so that you could come up with an idea of what that roadmap was going to look like.
Yeah. So I'm a different person than I was when I left. Right. So it's been 5 years, 6 years almost. And the experience that I've gained outside of that world was eye opening, because I grew up in one spot and I only knew what we knew. Like we only knew AFR ways and the way we did stuff and the way we built stuff. So it's interesting you bring that up, because I would call it, I call it a restart up, not a startup, and we're here, and it's a restart up. And 80% of the employees, actually a little bit more than that, were here when I left. So now there's a lot of the team that's the same, and they're still doing things their way. And I've come back in, and they know me, and I've been received very well. The team has been amazing, but we had to make change. So we had to come up with a plan. Like, how do we walk in and don't just say like, "Hey, you're doing everything wrong." Like that's not the answer. It's like, "Hey, we have to make change because we have to be able to gain market share. This is what the competition's doing. They've never really looked at what the competition was doing, and these are the things that we love about the competition. These are the things we don't like about the competition. This is what we want to create here. How do we get there with this team?" And kind of try and change the mindset of what they've been doing for so many years. So we've come up and formulated a plan. We've kind of come up with our core values as a company first. All these little things you have to kind of set the foundation for, so we can then move forward and make sure that every team member is kind of aligned with the vision of where we're going. And that's the key components. We've been reiterating that on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and continuing to ingrain that we kind of have to change it's a mindset shift, but we have to kind of change the perception of the company and change how we interact and how we treat our customers. And that's been like the main focus of the group that we've brought in so far.
you said that your primary the loans that you've been funding, that you're looking to kind of get away from, get more mainstream, have been a lot of one-time close. How did you guys wind up having that as your niche?
Well, it's one, once you start doing them, there's decent margin, right?
Okay.
There's always a decent margin in them. And it's a nuance that it's not easy to learn and do from the manufacturing process and how we do. A lot of people use outsourced firms. It really doesn't work. We own the whole construction process. So once you started to kind of build a process, we had a really good relationship with a really large manufactured home dealer, and one of the largest in the country, and we were one of their preferred lenders. So we kind of learned through that process and said, hey, we can kind of make this process really good and offer it to the wholesale community, and that's what we were known for. So like, we got into that and renovation. Those were our two big products, and we wanted to be, at the time, a place where we can make a little bit of margin, have the expertise where people can't just walk in and do it. And there's other big lenders out there that do OTC, but they don't do it as well as us, and they don't have an internal construction department and team that deals with this stuff every single day. They use an outsourced firm. So like, we really feel like we still have the upper hand in that business, and it's something that I don't want to change. I don't want to do less of it. I just want to be clear on that. I want to continue to grow it. There's only so much to grow. If I'm doing a race to a billion loans, $1 billion funded per month, that's our goal. If I'm doing a race to a billion, there isn't a billion of it for me to get. So we have to kind of go and look at ancillary, these other products, and standard production to be able to get to our goals.
I
Yeah,
remember
you
when
have to
I
widen
was,
the product mix, but it is a hot product today.
it
Oh yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's been a hot product. Look, I'm a renovation lover. I ran uh, government insuring for a nationwide lender for a long time. And prior to that, built ops for the 203K division of a nationwide company. And so, what we figured out very quickly from an operational standpoint was, you know, the credit qualifying portion of a renovation loan is a credit it's no different, but that entire piece where you're interacting with potentially a bunch of contractors, or at a minimum one main contractor, or possibly a HUD consultant, depending on what kind of K loan you're doing. That stuff is really foreign to your frontline originator, and unless they're one of the very few who said this is going to be my specialty, they're not going to learn the nuances of that. So I've seen you guys do something very similar to what I've done in the past, which is you build the support for that. Like, we'll do the renovation piece, feed us the information, we'll create a conveyor belt as best we can within those confines, and we'll make the process easy for you, which in turn is going to make you want to do more of these, which in turn is going to grab more market share for the product, and it all kind of flows along accordingly. But I think renovation loans are incredible. They're so untapped and misunderstood. The fear of them is so great in our industry, and it's surprising to me, because if you learn how to do them right, they're an incredible loan for people. Where else can you finance a portion of your renovations into a lower rate government loan? Like, it's an incredible loan. So I applaud AFR for never leaving that space. And I think it's really interesting that I think that there still are not a lot of wholesale lenders doing the 203K stuff at all.
Yeah.
They're down to like a handful. I can probably name them on one hand. And of those that are doing it right, I can probably choose one.
It's hard, right? And that's the part. It's hard. It's a little more difficult. It takes a lot of work and it takes some investment. And I'm like, back in the day, we built our portals. We built our proprietary portals. We have a builder and renovation portal, that's in there. So if someone comes in and goes, well, I want to work with a contractor that needs checks and we have to sign the back of them, we're like, we're out. That's not how we do business. It's got to be in the portal with the authorization for ACH is here. This is where you click the button. We use technology in 2017 and 18 when we were building this, to make it easy for those types of products. And where those pain points are, is where we try to solve for it. But I think the product's amazing. If I'm a loan originator, I'd be doing this all day long in all the states that, like, I use Florida as a great example of like the insurance crisis we're under in roofs, and just
Yeah.
getting a new roof and what that saves you in insurance. Like, I'd be selling these things all day long, especially like the more recently purchased home, like three-year-old homes. We've seen insurance costs nearly double, and you have a great opportunity to just go out there and use the reno programs for that.
What are your plans? So if you plan to continue to do, the renos and the one-time close, which I encourage you to do, like Jamie said, there's very few that are doing it. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. We close a few a month,
Mhm.
and I think it's a great thing for an originator to be able to go out there and differentiate themselves. But what are the other things that you're looking to bring in? Then what are the other things you want loan originators and your consumers to know that you guys are doing and specializing in and are going to make you different than other lenders that are out there?
Yeah, two parts to this. So, like the first part of my long-winded initial discussion about me was that I got to run capital markets from 2010 through 2015. 2010, when I took it over, I didn't know anything. I knew nothing. We had our hedge, the whole hedge model that we built. That was an Excel spreadsheet, and literally made stuff up. Like I think we pulled through with this and that, and we took our trades, messed up a lot of stuff. So I got to learn the capital markets world and securitization and the whole Ginnie and Fannie and Freddie world by messing up and asking questions and joining the MBA and going to the secondary conference and learning from people. So we have a different perspective when it comes to capital markets. So for us, like I would think from an originator standpoint, you know how great it is to be an originator, be able to walk in with this plethora of products and it gets you in the door. You might not do a ton of them, whether it's a DPA product or a rental product, wherever it is, but you walk in the door and say, "Hey, look, I can do this, Mister, Mister or Mrs. Referral partner. Like I can do this program." Same thing for us. I want to be able to walk into a broker shop and say, "Hey, I can do this, but did you know? Like you may know us for this. I also do this." We also offer these great products. So what we're taking and what the new AFR and kind of our mission statement here is taking this capital markets background. I have arguably, I wouldn't say not really, I wouldn't argue it. We have the best capital markets team on the planet. For the amount of volume that we do and the sophistication of our capital markets team, we're putting out an incredible price. We're not sacrificing margin to do it. We're doing it. We're executing better than the big boys that are out there and doing it. So we have this expertise that we've brought on. Some of the folks from the fund that we worked with came from Penny Mac, one of the original people from Penny and their capital markets team. And we know they have the top tier capital markets, people on the planet. And my head of capital markets now just came from there as well. So we're able to bring incredible people, incredible knowledge base. And our goal here is from a loan originator perspective, how capital markets and secondary markets work is we usually take the originations and you see what you get, then you turn around and try and make more money on them. We're flipping it around. We're going to the capital markets and going to the backside and saying, hey, where is there an axe? Where is there an opportunity for us? Where are people paying up? Where are people looking for business right now, especially with rates where they are? If things were to fall, what are the prepay speeds look like? Who's paying premiums above and beyond for certain criteria? Now we turn around and take that and put it out in our price to get those loans in. So instead of maximizing what we've already originated, we're trying to maximize the origination itself by passing through that back end price and those gains that a lot of these other companies are getting. I'm passing that through to the loan originators now and brokers out there in our pricing. So that's the focus that we have. So when you start talking about where we're growing, if you looked at where our conventional pricing was, 6 months ago and where it is today, if you look at some of our government pricing specifically on like $300,000 loans and below, we're knocking it out of the park right now. Investment properties, like things where there's little axes out in the market where we could take advantage. That's what we're doing, and that's what we're trying to get in. So it's clean, good business, and at a really good price. We make our margin. We're static. We're very happy. Brokers get a really good price that go out and to the market, and we're through the market by a lot. And that's what we're looking for right now. So we have that niche product, get us in the door, and then offer these other things. And I want to surprise you guys with the pricing that we're putting out there in a different process when you go ahead and put the loan through the manufacturing process now.
So when you're talking about a breadth of product, are you also including home equity lines,
No,
seconds, any of those? Okay.
no, I don't want to get involved in that. So seconds are tough. um, because a lot of time, like to do a fixed second takes all the regulatory requirements of a first and just none of the revenue. So it's hard enough to make money on first liens. Like I'm not good enough right now to be able to make money on second liens. And some of the HELOC products we don't want to get. We think there's people doing it really well right now, and there isn't enough juice to squeeze in our expertise to go out and get more out of it. So we're sticking to standard first mortgages and our niche first mortgages and OTC and Reno, and not getting into some of the ancillary products like seconds at the current moment.
Okay, that makes sense. Look, I think equity is, obviously we know is an all-time high, and there's a lot of loans out there that have very low first trust deeds. And so seconds are really just an opportunity to get in from an originator standpoint as well, but also for wholesale to get in and build your client base that you wouldn't otherwise have access to. And so that's why I think a lot are doing it, but we don't have, it's not the same that it was, 2 decades ago where MI was so high that everything you wanted to do was a piggyback loan, right? You had to have those seconds because you had to do a first at 80 or 79.9 and
Yep.
then a second to make up the difference, to get yourself a blended rate that was better than, the MI rates. But they've come down so much that you don't really need to do that anymore. So I certainly understand that decision. Um, what is next for you, Rob, both personally and professionally? So you've made a full kind of circle. You started AFR, you're back at AFR. You've got a key role there. You brought in the investors. I mean, you've accomplished quite a bit. Um, how, is this it? Do you sunset there? Do you have something else in mind? Do you do other things? Tell us what's
Yeah.
next for you.
Well, I will say since doing this, like my golf handicap has gone up significantly. So, and not enough rounds, but they're high, and it's changed the amount of golf I'm playing for sure. But
There's a
listen,
lot of
this is
golf talk these days, by the way.
yeah, there is. It's a
Yeah,
big topic.
we're speaking about the debate, of course.
Exactly, and yeah, we won't get into the handicap part there.
Okay.
So that part of it, for me, that since I've taken this role, it doesn't feel like work. Like I live and breathe the broker community and the capital markets community. Like that's what just I talk about. It's what I do. It's what I just love it. Um, now, is it a lot of hours? Yeah, like we're all in on this, and I think from an investor perspective, we have a really good group of investors that the investment thesis was obviously in focusing on the wholesale channel and kind of keeping our growth going in the other channels, but very small, but really focusing on the wholesale channel. The investors are all on board with not only the type of business we're trying to get, but what this is. This isn't a exit strategy type investment. So we built out a distribution model over forever, right? Just ongoing. So that way, worst case scenario is you're going to get a yield and get a dividend or a distribution over time. That's how we built this out. So we didn't go in and say, hey, in 5 years we're going to flip this for a 10x. Like that wasn't what our investment thesis was. We went in and said, hey, we're going to grow this out. We're going to do distributions over a certain amount. We're going to build an MSR fund, buy MSRs, and keep that in and have an investment group deal with that as well. So we kind of building all the pieces to have this distribution model set up. So our investors are on the same page as us, and that means a lot going forward. So this is it for me, right? This is what I want to do. This is the company I want to build with, and we want to, at the end of the day, create a company that can compete with the top players out in the market.
Do you
And
still
that's our
personally have
goal.
an ownership interest?
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Good.
I sold in 2018, but now I do have an ownership
You have
interest.
again.
Yeah.
What are the other channels that you have? You said they're smaller, but what are the other channels?
So we have correspondent. We have a non-delegated correspondent business that I consider the same as wholesale. Then we have our delegated correspondent where we buy closed loans from people on a bid basis, depending on things that we want to get. And then we have a small retail group that focuses in solely on one-time closed construction loans with
Okay.
those major manufacturer home dealers that we have partnerships with.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
makes
it.
sense.
So
Okay.
that's our business. But right now we're like 8% of the retail and running near 75% wholesale.
And you said your goal is 1 billion a month. How close are you to that?
A billion. We're nowhere near it. So
Okay.
but we're yeah, that the goal is up there. So we want to get to 1 billion a month, and like I said, I've been coining the phrase "race to 1 billion." It's just one of our small goals here. Like I said, we're starting at getting to right now we have the customers. It's like a weird scenario. I walked in because we have the niche products, and normally you would build out your pro formas of like, all right, I'm going to go out and get 500 more brokers to sign up with us and we'll get loans and blah, blah, blah. And here I'm like, all right, if I get like one loan per broker per month, I'm in really good shape.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That gets us to our billion a month. We have so many brokers signed up already. Right now, it's about focusing on the ones that we can gain share from, and how do we build out processes for them. It just makes sense for us to build out processes that are customized for our customers and make it where it's easy to do business with us. So we're focusing in on that and growing the business to, again, we want to get to that billion. Would just be it's a good mark to kind of shoot for in the wholesale space, because there aren't a lot of people doing 1 billion a month in the wholesale space right now.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, I think it's our wholesale community is so unique because You have customer acquisition is probably not your play, but re-engaging the customer base is. And to do that, you have to begin by changing the narrative. And my observation from the sort of outside periphery of the community is I'm watching you personally roll up your sleeves in a lot of cases to make that happen. It's like brick by brick, it's broker by broker, it's relationship by relationship. You rolled up your sleeves for one customer who now has a completely different perspective of AFR from perhaps the time they tried to use AFR 2 years ago. And now when we talk, because we do, where would you go for blah, blah, blah? The conversation used to be very different. Now the conversation is going to be, I'd give AFR a shot because my experience with them recently was vastly different than my experience had been in the past. And so not only do they have the specialty products that a lot of wholesale lenders don't, but they're doing them well, and the experience is going to be good.
Yeah.
That's a lot, and I'm watching you put in what can only be astounding amounts of hours to do it because I'm seeing you in the community taking that kind of action. And we had a great conversation, broker to lender, not long ago that changed my perspective on AFR and gave me a reason to start to re-engage with you guys and tell my team to do the same. So I think it's an interesting time. There's a lot of opportunity out there to capture wholesale market share, in my opinion, as a lender. We have less of them. We have some that have gotten comfortable and haven't sharpened their service and processes. And then we have we'll call them littler guys that
Yeah.
are on the periphery that are focusing on the right things to reestablish yourself in the community. I think it's already happening, and I see it continuing on a really positive trajectory for you and for AFR.
Yeah, one, thank you for the kind words that you put into the network. In our conversation alone, I cited it a couple times. I cited it when I was talking to Jonathan Haddad and in our kind of reintroduction to AIM. I talked about it because it's really important to engage and get the feedback. I am not going to shy away. And you've seen it in the comments, like there'll be people blasting the shit out of AFR, like bad. And you're like, oh man, I'll message them. I don't care. Like, I'm like, all right, hey, listen, you said this, what happened? Let me know. Like, I'll work with this. And then I'm like, man, did this just happen? And they're like, yeah, I sent you the loan. It was 2014 and that jerk. And you're like, that was 10 years ago. I was like, that was 10 years ago. And you're still chiming in on a comment on someone that wants to use AFR. I'm like, that's a different world back then. But for me, when I see it, I take it's like personal, right? Like right now, this is it. I want people that want to engage with us and build a company for the broker. So if I don't get that perspective, like I said, for me, I am not gonna not take a ride once in a while down the path of doing a loan. I think that's where a lot of the leadership in our wholesale lending community, what they've forgotten. They forgot what
Mhm.
it's like to do a loan. They forgot what it's
Yeah.
like to deal with what the competition's doing and what other people are doing. They're up here, and that's okay. They've made a lot of money over the 2020, 2021 run. I get it, but there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect of what it's like on the front lines right now, how hard it is to get a loan. And I talk about it with you. I talked about it with the last podcast I did, and I talk about the whole sentiment for me is like how grateful I am to get the loan. And it's a different concept. I was out there. It is freaking hard to get a loan.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like I don't care what. Like you're an originator, you're out there. The guys that are doing $5-10 million. I'm like, that's amazing. Because when I was out there, it's hard. You go through all the stuff, and then someone could online shop you. They can do this or do that. There's all this trust you build. You get a loan, you have it in. Here you have a loan officer that gets a loan, did all that work to get in, and they have 200 plus places they can go to, and they chose AFR. They chose us. Like I have to take that loan. Like, oh my God, thank you so much for even thinking that you can send me a loan. You're risking your whole reputation, your relationship with that person who can continue to send you business, the borrower who can write you up poorly online because it's your fault, not mine, not the lender. They're dealing with the loan officer, and you chose AFR. Like I am incredibly grateful for that one loan. And you said something a little earlier. It's exactly right. Winning back the brokers and the reputation, one broker at a time. That's what I tell my team. So I tell our investors, I was like, this is a really ugly process right now. We have to go through and I am going to message, get the feedback, someone will tell me, I effing hate you guys in a comment and in a message. Well, guess what? I've been able to get somebody to send me a loan, even after
Yep.
they said that comment.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we're going to test run this and we'll do it again. And for us, like that's all I have to do. One broker at a time to say, hey, I gave you a shot. I had someone gave us a shot and didn't like the result. I said, what was wrong with the result? This is what was wrong. It was a Texas disclosure was a problem. Okay, great. Went back to my team. Boom, we solved it. He might not send us a loan. I let him know we fixed it, but that was a problem. And so getting that feedback and understanding what's happening and living and breathing and understand that we work to make your lives easier, not the other way around. Then hoping that, maybe it's not 3,000 plus brokers that are approved with us because 1,000 of them hate our guts or don't want to work with us. I want 1,000 or 500 really good brokers that want to engage and build the best platform on the planet. You guys are going to have a competitive advantage because we're working for you.
Yeah. That's a great disposition come from. It really is. And I think that's going to win brokers back for sure. Do you also have wholesale reps with boots on the ground, or is everything centralized?
So we do we have that set up. I like the dual structure, to be honest. Like, and that's where we're going. We're going to have inside and outside, and we want to have both. You care about the phone getting answered, the escalation pathway being clear, help on products and support. You want to have that like control inside where someone's always going to be there. They're working their hours. This is where they're at, and then you have the other side of it, which is, oh, you're at a conference, or we're putting on a happy hour. We're doing whatever, you're meeting and greeting and doing all of that. And that's really important for the relationship aspect. And that's going to be, you're going to see a lot of me out there as well. That's that's the type of business that we want, and and we've seen some other lenders do it that way. And I really, really do like that because it's really hard to do both well, like to be up for the front lines and be able to
Yeah.
help with the
No, I
origination
think that's the
aspect
right
of it.
formula for
It is.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, gosh, Rob, man, a lot of good stuff going on in your world, and it is a clawback. Like it does take time, and one broker at a time, you'll get there. I'm confident of that, just based on what you're saying. I think you got the right formula, you got the right disposition, you got the right attitude, and you can get people like Jamie on your side. You get there quickly. So
We
um,
got we got to get our loans closed cleanly, and then we're there. Yeah, no, that's it, and that's the idea, and that's the thought process. We want to work, like I said, we want to work with people that want to provide the feedback and give opinions on processes that can get better, and that's what we want. That's the only way we get better. And like I said, the faster people realize that and understand that, the better we're going to become, the better they'll be. Like we are obsessed, like obsessed with the customer experience, like absolutely obsessed with it. And like I said, every time with any comment about anything that's going on right now that's off, or I see it and I'm like, "Oh, did we do that?" Like it's painful, and our
yeah,
team feels it. And that's the way we're approaching it right now, is like we need people that are just absolutely obsessed, like I am, about what that experience is for our clients now, and our brokers. So we get it. That part, I think, having a little bit of that frontline kind of experience and recent experience is going to help us kind of resonate and be able to connect with the broker community, because so far so good in terms of the relationship that we've had and the feedback that we've gotten, and it's been all positive. We're making small shifts and changes, but that tide is shifting a little bit with the reputation out there of
It
AFR.
is for sure. It is for sure. Okay, so I have a curveball question I have to ask every guest on
Let's
Get
do
Real
it.
411. Um, you've got an interesting journey because, not unlike me, you've gotten to sit in quite a few seats in different channels and different parts of our industry, which has been a really fun ride, by the way. So, knowing everything that you know now, if you could go back and talk to, say, 20-year-old Rob, what would you tell him?
Oof. You know what? The fastest way to a pay cut is get out of origination.
True.
you always, it's always the best, and the originating itself. I wish I spent the time and energy on that piece of it. I am okay at it. I will. I probably overthink a lot of stuff. I'm very cerebral when it comes to the mortgage market. That's why probably the capital market stuff comes easier to me. But I would be focusing in on sales and origination and really building out processes on the front end side, because boy, that looks like fun and it's amazing. And that is, I always joke with everybody who is in originations and doing well, and they're like, man, I'd love to get into like a seat like yours, or get into like management of this and that. I'm like, don't do it. Stick to the origination. It is so you're gonna love it. You don't want to pay cut and have to go through all the headaches and pain here. Like, just go and stick with originations. But I will say, that aspect of it, the origination side, is something that I would have probably spent a little more time focusing on.
very
Good
good.
advice. Good
Yeah,
advice.
I love
Yeah,
it. Different perspectives.
for sure.
Rob, thanks for joining us today, man. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
we're fans. We're going to be rooting you on.
Oh man, we appreciate that, and I love hearing about fans of yours as well. We'll be rooting you guys on, and looking forward to building a great partnership together.
Very
Awesome.
good. Thank you.
Get Real 411 is hosted by Brad Rice and Jamie Kavanaugh, produced by Stuart Jellin, and recorded live from the AmeriFund Home Loan Studio in Simi Valley, California. You can learn more about the show at getreal411.com and watch full episodes on YouTube. If you're interested in being a guest on Get Real 411, email booking@getreal411.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.